Hello and welcome. If you haven't already, I invite you to please click subscribe. There's no obligation, and it allows you to be notified of all new chapters. Additional information about the story, including the author, chapter warnings, and rating, can be found in the description below. All credit goes to the original author. Bleeding Skies by Orphan Account. Chapter 14. The Men. A single black jeep approaches the small plane, stopping at a short distance from them. Scott, Liam, and Derek hold their hands up, covering their eyes against the sharp car lights which blind them all. The girls are standing on the steps of the plane, holding back as Scott signals them. "Go back inside," Malia tells Lydia. "Stay with Stiles and hide." "Hide where? The plane is small, you know," Lydia mutters as she goes back in, her senses kicking in as she realizes something's about to go terribly wrong. As the vehicle stops, the three wolves cautiously wait until someone opens the jeep door, but that doesn't happen. The driver remains seated and doesn't make a single move towards them. Scott cautiously walks over to the driver's side, gazing inside. Two men gaze back, carefully watching the teenager's every move. The driver wheels down his window and turns off the engine, eyeing the party of 4 teenagers and 1 adult standing in front of him. Derek is the one he's most cautious of. He definitely considers the teenagers to be harmless. "Thank God you found us," Scott speaks first. "Did you bring medical supplies? Are more people coming?" The men glance at each other and then back at him. "Medical supplies?" "Yeah. Aren't you from the search party?" Scott tries to hide his carefulness. The two hesitate. Then the driver says, "No. We were just passing through. What's wrong?" Instantly, Scott feels himself turn cold again as he cautiously looks aside at the other 2 wolves, the Banshee and the Coyote. He again signals behind his back for the others to wait. Every single muscle in him warns him about these men. Scott takes 1 step backward away from them, ready to fight them if needs be. He's ready to transform, to attack. "What are you doing here?" the passenger asks, chewing on gum as he lazily eyes the teenager before him. "There was an accident," Scott speaks slowly and cautiously. "We spotted smoke just over that hill there when we were nearby. We were tourists flying over. Our pilot decided to go take a look, so we landed here and went to see where the smoke came from. The car exploded before we could reach it. Our friend is badly hurt and our pilot is dead. Do you have a mobile connection by any chance? Or an exact direction of where we are now?" "Kid, we're in the middle of the desert. There's no such thing as mobile phones around here," the passenger snorts. "Trust me, you won't be able to reach anyone." Scott carefully peers inside the vehicle, noticing a built-in GPS. If they can get the coordinates out of that, they can call it in and pinpoint their exact location. It will save them a lot of time. But something tells him these guys won't be eager to share that bit of information with them. Scott glances at Derek, warning him to tread carefully. The adult moves closer. "Look, we just need help for our friend," he says. "People are looking for us. We need immediate medical help." "Is there anything we can do for your friend?" the driver asks. "Where is he?" "He's inside the plane," Scott says quietly. "He's badly hurt. He needs help." "Sure, we'll help him," the passenger snorts, receiving a kick in the ribs from his friend. "We're waiting for help from Palm Springs," Derek speaks. "There's nothing much you can do, except perhaps get us back to Palm Springs. Your jeep seems large enough to get him transported. He's stable enough to be moved. If one of us can go with him, we can bring him to a hospital." We're not exactly heading in that direction, the driver says. The exact opposite, I should say. So, nobody knows where you are, the passenger asks slowly, his eyes focused on Scott as his voice becomes dangerously low. They are searching for us, Scott retorts slowly, realizing they're up for a fight. A lot of people. But nobody knows where you are. The driver and his passenger share a glance. That's good, the passenger mutters, exiting the vehicle from his side. The driver opens his car door, pointing a gun at the tourists. That's very good, actually. What's going on? Scott asks, trying to sound as frightened as possible, while Derek slowly approaches and Liam grows angrier, claws ready. The passenger quickly hauls out his own gun and fires at Derek. The slug impacts on Derek's chest, throwing the wolf backwards to the ground. A second later, the gun goes off a second time, a bullet fired straight into Liam's abdomen. He falls with a cry next to the older wolf, out for the count. Derek! Liam! Malia shouts, rushing off the steps. Scott balls his fists, staring right into the barrel of the driver's gun. No! Scott cries out, trying to stop the coyote as she runs forward. Before she can reach Derek, the passenger aims his gun at the dark-haired girl, stopping her before she can reach the older wolf. A third bullet lands in her chest, dropping her to the ground. Scott quietly closes his eyes for a brief moment, listening to their heartbeats. 3 beats, all slowed down, all going strong. His shoulders sag. Stay calm if you don't want to go next, kid, the driver says, aiming his gun at Scott's head. The alpha raises his hands, gazing directly into the driver's eyes. What do you want? He speaks through clenched teeth. You killed my friends. And if you don't want to die too, you do as we say. There was another girl, wasn't there? I don't know what you're talking about. I saw her. Long red hair, standing on the steps. Is she in the plane? She's harmless. We don't care, the passenger snorts, kicking Derek. Sorry to say you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Scott knows he has to keep them out of the plane, but knows he'll fail in doing so. The driver grabs him roughly by the arm, pulling him against him as a protective shield, the gun pressed against the back of his head. Scott knows he won't survive a bullet in his brain. He gazes at the others, lying very still and unconscious on the ground. He has to play the innocent card, the scared one. The driver nods at his friend, ignoring Malia, Liam, and Derek, who lie still on the ground. You go make sure that there's nothing left of the bodies in the car. I'll deal with him and his 2 friends on board. Right, the passenger leaves, holding his gun in his hand as he runs straight for the hill and over it, knowing which way to go without even thinking about it. What are you doing? Scott asks, biting his tongue in order not to betray himself. Are you going to kill us too? Why? What did we do to deserve this? My friend is just making sure that you're telling the truth about the car, and to check if the bodies in there are obliterated. What bodies? Scott asks, playing his innocent kid look card. We just saw a burning car. It blew up before we even got to the bottom of the valley. I don't know who you are and what you want from us. You killed my friends for nothing. You shouldn't have landed here, you know, the driver says. It would have saved you a lot of trouble. Here we were, thinking we found the perfect place to kill those people off. But no, you had to go and mess with our business. If it weren't for you and your damn curiosity, nobody would have found them for ages. The car would have exploded and every shred of evidence would have been burnt to a crisp. I don't want to hear this, Scott says, his eyes fixed upon the plane, knowing he will endanger the other 2 if he makes it in. But right now he has no choice. We don't want to know." "But you're already a part of it," the driver explains. "Imagine our surprise when we were sitting in this bar near the Palm Springs main police station, and this cop comes running in to get his off-duty colleagues and some volunteers to search for a plane stranded in the middle of the desert. A plane with a bunch of kids and no pilot, who was killed when an abandoned car exploded before their eyes. Imagine our shock when we put two and two together. Of course, we had the advantage of knowing exactly where to look. They didn't. That saved us time." Scott feels the blood drain from his face as he tries to figure out how to attack without getting shot in the head. "So what are you going to do now? Kill us too? What's the point? We don't know who you are or why you killed those people. We don't want to know. We can keep our mouths shut. But if you kill the rest of us in cold blood, I can assure you that you'll spend the rest of your days watching your backs. We're just kids, you know. We didn't see anything. By tomorrow, I won't even remember your license plate." "We'll be long gone by then, kid," the driver snorts. "And yes, you won't be able to tell anyone, because you won't be sticking around much longer. Do you really think I'm gonna let you live while I kill the others? I forfeited my right to go free if they get me. And you know what? I don't give a damn. Let's go take a look at your friend, shall we? Walk. If you do as I say, I'll kill you quickly." As slowly as he can, Scott heads up the ladder and pulls open the door, going inside the compartment. The driver has his gun still pointed at the back of his head, using him as a shield. The gun pressed to his head, the driver is very careful. As they enter, Scott instantly senses something has changed. "Move forward," the driver orders him. "Show me where your wounded friend and his girlfriend are. Are there any lights in this plane?" "No, all the power died," Scott says, shockingly surprised that the lights are all out inside the plane. Lydia nor Stiles can see in the darkness. They'll be as blind as the driver is. When they walked out, they left 2 flashlights on so Stiles could see. Before the two entered the plane, Lydia stares through the small window outside, shocked at what she sees. The gun blasts shock her to the core. She stares at their new enemies, knowing they're in for trouble if they get in. "Stiles, you need to get up," she whispers, waking her friend. "We have to hide." He stares at her as if she's gone mad. "Where? There's nothing." "I can get you way back in the plane, hidden behind boxes. It'll be a while before he finds you there." Too small. Only room for one." "I'll figure something else out," she says frantically. Stiles tries to gather all of his senses, trying to come up with a plan. Slowly, Lydia pulls him up, holding him tight with her arm behind his back, as she frantically searches for a place to stash Stiles away. "In the front." Stiles grips the seat, nodding towards the small cockpit. Get me there and close the door. You go in the back." "No, Stiles, that's too dangerous. He'll find you immediately." "No." Stiles shakes his head as he touches Lydia's face. "I'll be fine." Stiles sweats as he pushes himself with all the force he has, moving forward. Lydia has no choice but to do as he asks. She shuts the compartment door and moves to the back, hiding behind the boxes as small as she can, freezing with fear as the plane door opens. In the dark of the plane, Scott switches to his werewolf eyes and sees a dark heap of blankets lying on the floor where Stiles used to be. Not understanding, the Alpha moves forward until he's near the blankets. He sees Lydia's slight movement in the back, catches her fear. She knows he senses her there. Her finger points in the dark to the front of the plane. Immediately he gets it. "Stiles is right here," Scott mutters, knowing the man doesn't see at all that there's no one there. He steps next to the blanket, leaning over, talking to Stiles who isn't there. The gun remains pointed at his head. "Stiles." Then he looks up, seemingly shocked. Oh my gosh. He's not breathing anymore. He's dead. The driver pushes Scott forward, who falls on top of the blankets. He aims his gun at the black-haired teenager, ready to shoot him. A sound from behind startles the driver. Turning around, he sees a dark-haired teenager come right at him. For an instant, his attention is off. Catch! Stiles hisses, throwing an object straight into the man's hands. Instinctively, the driver tries to catch it, feeling something wet on his hands, followed by a strong scent. In disgust, he stares at his hands, sensing something cold and sticky on them, dripping out of a brown paper bag. And then, he sees a set of cold eyes in the dark go at him. He hears a growl and finds fangs scratching him, hurting him. He looks up and sees the man his partner shot earlier, standing straight up. Behind him is the girl that he shot and the other kid he shot too. The driver cries out as he tries to get away, only to have Scott attack him too with fierce red eyes and fangs from the other side, pulling the gun out of his hand. Derek knocks him out. Ah! Stiles cries out as he falls on his knees, clutching his chest. Scott sees blood dripping from his hand, thinking at first he's shot, only to realize that Stiles has pulled out the IV before crawling up and hiding in the pilot's cabin, only to throw a brown paper bag with bile into the man's hands as a diversion. Lydia moves from her hideout, switching on the flashlight she held as defense in her hands. Stiles, Malia says, rushing to him and holding him tight, while Scott, Derek, and Liam check on their attacker. Out cold, is Liam's dry reply, before looking at Stiles, who sits down panting on the cabin floor. What did you do that for? Derek barks. We can heal, you idiot. He could have shot you. We had a plan. Lydia doesn't heal, Stiles whispers hoarsely, staring at her pale features. Lydia kneels down, holding his face between her hands. Bile as a weapon, Stiles? Scott smiles gently. My bat isn't on board. It's over now, Stiles, Malia speaks gently, holding her boyfriend in her arms. We're all okay. You did well. Not exactly, Derek replies as he picks up the man's gun and tucks it away behind his belt. The other one is still out there, and he'll be back any second. We need his car, and this one has seen us wolf out. Like anyone is going to believe that, Liam mutters. He's so doped up on drugs he can hardly walk straight. Straight enough to shove a gun in our faces, though, Scott remarks, focusing on Stiles. Malia, Scott, and Lydia settle him down on the middle chair. Lydia's eyes are fixed on the man who tried to shoot her. She smiles at her friends. Go get him, Tigers, and go get those coordinates. Liam, you stay here with Stiles and Lydia, Scott orders, pointing at the driver. If he so much as stirs, knock him out again. Too bad we can't kill him, Stiles mutters. No killing, Scott orders. The rules don't change. Derek grits his teeth angrily, rushing out of the plane first, followed by the rest of the group, only to find their second suspect unexpectedly walking back to the car. As he sees Derek, the passenger freezes and ducks behind the plane's wheels, shooting at them. Instead of hitting them, he shoots his own vehicle in the process. The bullets strike the car, smashing into its hood and two tires. Derek prays the dashboard didn't take a hit either, as they move into the darkness, using the night to their advantage. As the shooter moves upward to get better aim, he suddenly stares into the faces of two werewolves and one very angry coyote. Scott has been shot, but is still standing, the bullet barely grazing his arm. The three of them grab the passenger, shoving him roughly to the ground, knocking him out. He's too surprised to be much of a threat. Derek is eager to take him out for good, only stopping when he realizes enough blood had been shed tonight. And he respects Scott's rules. Malia and Scott tie him up, roughly shoving his unconscious features against the plane's wheel, where they leave him be. "He won't wake up for a while," Scott says. "The cops can deal with him." Derek opens the Jeep, turning the ignition. To their good fortune, the GPS starts up immediately. The wolf taps on the buttons until he finds their exact GPS coordinates. "Got it!" he cries out in triumph, memorizing the data. As he looks up, Derek's senses jump into alert. Something's wrong inside the plane. He can feel it. And then they hear it too, as Lydia screams.